blood has left me forgiven, pure like the whitest of snow, powerful to make sin and shame retreat. This covenant is making me whole, so I will rise and lift my head, for by His mercy my life was spared. The highest name has set me free. Because of Jesus, my heart is clean. Purify my heart in your presence. Teach me to discover the joy of holiness that forms as you draw me close. In you I was lost is restored, so I will rise and lift my head, for by His mercy my life was spared. The highest name has set me free. Because of Jesus, my heart is clean. So I will rise and lift my head, for by His mercy my life was spared. The highest name has set me free. Because of Jesus, my heart is clean. Because of Jesus, my heart is clean.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Renew Church. We just have a couple of announcements for you guys. So firstly, on Wednesday at 7 p.m, Renew Church will be starting groups sessions on Zoom. So if you would like more information about that, feel free to go ahead and contact Renew and they can pass out information. Also, we just want to thank everyone so much for all the giving that they have done for Renew Church so far. If you want more information about how to give to Renew Church, everything, all the details are in the description box below. Also, if you want to keep up to date with everything that Renew Church are doing, please feel free to go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can keep in touch. Thank you.
In times of trouble and despair, it's easy to lose focus. But Jesus has used His people to build a church that makes cities take notice. It ain't over till the trumpet sounds, and until then we won't succumb. This now, we'll stand. With the Bible in our hands, the church is alive and part of God's plan. We don't focus on death, we focus on life. Even in the darkest room, the tiniest candle brings light. So how much more with the Lord on our side? Through struggle and strain, you are our hiding place. Surround us with songs that deliver us when we give you praise. And some might think this is easy for me to say, because I don't know the things you're going through today. And that's true, but God does. And His church is here for you like it was here for us.
Because my church prayed for me when I lost my dad in an instant.
The church gave me sight when I didn't have any vision.
The church gave me songs when my mind was stuck in a prison.
I would sing them so loud and feel freedom enter my system.
I've seen the church feed the homeless and give them service.
I've seen them take the kids off the streets and give them purpose.
I've seen them give a home to the nations so they can worship.
I've seen my church see past my flaws. I'm undeserving.
Lord, I'm thankful that we grow through what we go through. And I'm thankful for community, because church isn't a place that I just go to. It's the family I belong to.
for the moments where I'm still in your presence. All the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Come on. 'Cause Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. 'Cause all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Whoa, 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 whoa. You're the fire in the morning. You're the cool in the evening. The breath in my soul. You're the life in my bones. And there is no hesitation in your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. My heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. 'Cause all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on. So I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. 'Cause all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Come on, wherever you are, would you begin to lean in? Doesn't matter if you're in your home, the presence of God is with you. So come on, can we sing together? Come on. 'Cause death could not hold you. The Come on, we sing together. You called me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep. My faith will stand, so we sing. And I will call upon your name, Jesus, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine. Sufficient grace, would you sing it out? Your grace abounds. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you'll sing. You've never failed, and you won't stop. So you sing to him, come on. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of, 'cause you are here as we sing. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you will call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. You're calling us out, oh, that we'd be present to lead in love. Yeah, have your way this season, Lord. May we always call on you. Come on, one more time. And I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. My soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine. Thank you, Jesus.
Hey church, so as you know, every week we have been going through our core and key values, and let me just remind you of these key and core values. So we went through the Word of God, meaning the Bible, the presence of God, we went through authenticity, we went through people. Also we'll be speaking on excellence and courage, but probably my favourite one out of them all, actually, if I was to be honest, was this one. I should say the Word of God, but that as well, but this one, and it is creativity. This is one of our key values as a church. We're always trying to creatively reach people in different ways, because we want to reach people that nobody's reached before. We need to do something that nobody's done before. So we're always trying to think of innovative ways. And you know what we've kept saying in this lockdown is, you know, yeah, we've got limitations, but limitation brings innovation. So on the theme of creativity, we wanted to do it a bit different. So tonight at this service, we're going to do it a bit different. We're going to do it as more a conversation. And I've got one of my good friends all the way from down London, Dan Blythe, who is one of the pastors at Hillsong London, and he's such an encourager, he's such a great friend. But why I've got him on this, he's one of the most, when I just think of him, I think of creativity and I think of innovation. So we're just going to have a conversation around that value of creativity. Dan, so good to see you, mate. How are you?
You too, Stephen. So good, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I'm excited to chat to you.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for coming and being part of a family. We have now adopted you into our church as one of our cool cousins. You're adopted.
Nice.
There's an open invite to come and speak at our church, or just to come and hang with us when this is all over at any time. So,
mate, you know, I was thinking about you guys just this week. You know, starting a church plant takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of pioneering, and then the fact that you've started and we're in the middle of this crisis, I was thinking, I wonder how you guys are doing. And just chatting to you and just seeing how you guys are innovating and creating and coming up with new things and new ways, and not holding on to the method, but holding on to the message, mate. I'm so inspired and encouraged by what you guys are doing as a church.
Oh, that's super encouraging, and I'm sure the rest of the Renew family will be really encouraged by that as well. So thank you for that. You're just, see what I mean, guys? You're just such an encourager. It's like, you're just awesome. So we're going to talk on this, one of our key values, the creativity, which I know is a big deal for you as well, and a big deal for Hillsong Church as well. But before I do, I just want to let people get to know you a bit. before we get into that. So could you just briefly, because obviously you're a pastor at Hillsong London, which means that, well, we'd all hope that you're a Christian and you know Jesus. But can you just briefly tell us how that happened? You know, some people call them testimonies, or, you know, your God story, how you met Jesus.
Yeah, man. Age, I think it was 12. Mum and dad got divorced, neither of them Christian at the time. Separately, both married Christian partners, got involved in the local church, which is cool. So I was taken to church from my teenage years, but all I saw was the thou shalt nots rather than thou shalt. So what I can't do in Christ rather than what I can do in Christ. And so I didn't want anything to do with it, because for me, that was just religion. Age 18, I got all my birthday money together, got a one-way ticket to Australia, went there to go on an adventure, to party hard. And the first weekend I was there, I met some Christians. From the outside, they looked like me, but they lived for some other reason. You know, that lived for significance. They lived for something much greater. And after spending 1 week with them, boxing, surfing, I went to one of their connect groups and I asked them, why do you live? Why you live? And they said, Jesus. And I knew I wanted to follow Jesus. So made a decision to follow Jesus. Age 18. I was very dysfunctional, had so many issues, a lot of baggage, but luckily I was surrounded by a church which is accepting and welcoming. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Wow. That's awesome. I love the fact that it's just people like you, you know, like I think a lot of people, when they think they're coming to Jesus or they're coming to church, that God's about to take all their personality away, when it's like, no, man, it's good, man. It's just, you know, so I love that you went surfing and boxing, and that's the way that we should be doing life. That is a creative way to do it. So now you're on a journey that you're a pastor of Hillsong London, or Hillsong UK even. Could you just tell us what your role is, because I'm probably getting it wrong here, is what your role is and what that actually looks like, so maybe in a day-to-day or generally?
Yeah. So I'll be on staff, it would be 10 years in September. And I started off looking after the 25 plus community. Then I looked after new Christians. Then I looked after our youth ministry. And then it was about 3 years ago, I was asked to step into media, communications, creative direction. And I've been doing that for the last couple of years, getting to work with creatives, which has been amazing. I've seen God through everything. And I guess what I've really learned is not to hold on to anything too tightly. Just hold on to Jesus tightly and everything else loosely. And never get your sense of identity or confidence from what you do, but rather who you're doing it for, from Jesus. And I think because of that, like whatever it is I'm responsible for looking after, I've always seen it such a privilege, and it's been amazing. So I don't know, who knows what the future holds, but to be honest, I don't care. I don't have 10 things that I want to achieve, 10 titles or positions that I want to have. I just love building the church, and I love helping people.
Wow. And it was interesting because I've known you always as the youth and young adult pastor, and I didn't know it moved into a creative role. Even it wasn't after I asked you to do this to come and speak, and then I was like, that's just how much you breathe creativity.
Right.
It's absolutely awesome. So obviously, as we mentioned earlier, we are in this we're starting to come out of this lockdown, which is good news. I'm seeing any progress is good news right now. But one thing that, you know, it started off like everybody was really innovative, really creative, but then you find out you've only got so many rooms to film stuff in. You've only got so many backdrops. We don't all have cool backdrops like you, but we only have. And now it's getting to that point that this is starting to get. We need to rethink how to be more creative. And so my question is, how do we be more creative through this season of lockdown, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I don't think the goal is to try and be more creative. I think you just need to spend more time with the creator. You know, God is creative. He created heavens and earth without Pinterest. He created you and me without Instagram for inspiration. So God is creative, and we are made in his likeness, as it says in Genesis. And as we create, we actually reflect the characteristics of our Father. So I wouldn't say creative is a people type. I'd say it's actually every type of person. And as we spend more time with him, we become more like him. And so if you want to come up with more creative ideas, more innovative ideas, just spend more time with God, more time in the Word, and you watch as the Holy Spirit will start to drop in ideas, show you new ways to see things, give you a fresh perspective, and then you can implement those things.
Wow, that's so good. I love that Pinterest quote. That is, yeah, I think I'm going to steal that one.
Yeah, do it, mate. I think I've stolen a lot of yours in the past, so it's fair.
You're too kind. So, as I said, we're going through this series of our church values, or I like to call it our family values. And one of them is creativity. But in the everyday language, I would just say these are things we just really deeply care about. So why do you think the church should care about creativity?
I think the church should care about creativity because, we don't need to get our ideas or imagination from the world or what from other people doing. We can get it straight from God. God He's not limited when it comes to imagination. He is unlimited, and we are connected to that source of imagination. So I don't think the church should always be the ones following. We should, in some areas, be the ones leading, not for the sake of leading, but just so that everything that we create actually demonstrates, who the God is that we serve. And if you think a lot of decisions that we make is, what would Jesus do in the situation? In the same way we create, we should see, what would Jesus do in this situation? How would he create? And all the way through the Bible, Jesus is very creative. Whether he takes a couple of fish and a couple of loaves and he gives it to God, he creates something out of something very small. Whether he turns water into wine, you look all the way through the Bible. There's creativity, and then you look at the Christians that followed Jesus. Even you look in Rome, and you look at Michelangelo, who painted the Sixtine Chapel. It wasn't just him that painted every little bit. There was hundreds of artists involved in that, all of that trying their hardest to try their best to display God's goodness and his greatness and his glory. They didn't even come close to displaying how good and great his goodness and glory really is, but that was their attempt. And I think it's the same for us here today in the year 2020, just to try and create in such a way it just shows somebody just a glimpse of God's goodness and his glory, so that they might be able to actually see him and hopefully maybe enter into a relationship with him.
Wow. That's so. I just love good. I love this because you're such a laid back, chilled out dude, and I just see the passion leaking out for this. I absolutely love that. But you touched on everybody with this in the Sixtine Chapel. It was more than one person. So one thing that you guys are really good at is having a creative culture. How do we get that creative culture?
Yeah, I think it's really important that when it comes to culture, Brian Houston says you don't teach the culture, you just be the culture. So, it's a leadership quote that goes around, but there's 3 ways to lead: by example, by example, by example. So I think, you guys are starting a church, you're pioneering, which is awesome. So it's really key that, that your first, group, your community, those values that you're talking about. And by the way, those values I think are spot on. I think about us and our house, and a church which maybe puts Jesus at the front and center. I think all of those values are spot on. So I think it's really important that you guys aren't in a hurry to see growth and reach thousands and millions, even though that could be on the horizon. The important thing is that whoever's in your community now, that they really grab hold of that. And from you guys just living the culture together, you watch that culture will be attractive. And so I think, hang on, I think I might have gone off. What was it? Refresh my memory, the question.
It's okay. I love that. I was just asking how we have a creative culture.
Yeah. So I think first of all you need to make sure that you don't have a fear of failure, because fear of failure is what stifles a creative culture. Because when you create something, you're always trying something new, and when you try something new, people might not like the look of it, they might not like the sound of it, it might be different to what's been in the past. Sometimes we can get very comfortable to what's been in the past. And so whenever you're creating, there's this risk. You're stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's uncomfortable. And so to make sure as a church, you guys don't have the fear of failure, and you're saying, hey, look, guys, we're just going to try some things. And if it works, we're going to celebrate together. And if it fails, we're going to go, all right, we're not going to do that next week. We're going to try it like this. But the key is you don't let success go to your head, and you don't let failure go to your heart. You win together and then you lose together. But the main thing is whatever you're doing it together. I love the quote that says, it's amazing what you can achieve when you don't care who gets the credit. And that, I feel like for the church, the world is always looking for photo credit, sign my art. Like the world in creativity is always looking for the credit. But I think for the church, we're doing it for Christ. We're doing it for people. So who cares whether the light is on us or not? Because it's all meant to be about putting the light on Jesus and pointing to him.
I love that. Absolutely. Love that. That's so good. Wow, that's so good. So you guys, one thing I've seen that you do is, and I think you've got some things in the background there of it, is the Media Collective. And so my next question, I think it may add some of that, you maybe can speak on that, but my question is what is one and maybe you can speak about. I'll do two in this one. Maybe you can speak about something that has been something that you've tried out and it has been a failure and how you dealt with that. And then the kind of second end of that question is, what is something it's been the other end? It's been like God's just really breathed on it, and you know, there's been really a lot of God stories from that, if any. Like, no pressure.
Yeah, no, totally, man. To be honest with you, we probably experience more failures than we do successes, in terms of like part of our culture is always trying new things and stepping out of our comfort zone. The thing is, it's not the failure. The thing is, how do you respond to the failure? How do you deal with the failure together as a church, as a community? Because often if it's just like talking behind people's back, gossiping, oh, that didn't work, that was rubbish, that doesn't actually solve anything. But it's actually this coming together, like honest feedback. And you know, these days feedback can be over a phone, text message, and an email. And I feel like that just destroys a healthy creative culture. You know, this guy called Alma Meribin, he was a scientist, and he discovered that when we communicate, 5% of it is words, 45% of it is tone of voice, and 50% of it is body language. You know, and so it's, you know, we're having a Zoom chat right now, and there's body language, there's face to face, and we're experiencing and building a relationship on a whole nother level to whether it was just a text message. The problem is that we fail, but then a lot of the time we give critique and feedback through text, which is just the 5%. It's funny, in 2 John 12, John writes, he says, I've got so much to say to you. I've got so much joy to share, but I'm going to wait. I'm not going to write it down. I'm going to wait till I can share it with you face to face. See, he knew the power of body language and tone of voice to share an experience. And I think, so it's really important whenever you fail, and it doesn't matter what the failure is, big or small, that when it comes to giving honest feedback, when it comes to making, you know, the community greater, better, excellence, moving forward, that there's a place where you can share that stuff face to face, because people would say a lot of things by text that they would never say face to face. So I think that's important. And then the second part of the question was...
It's all right. It's like lockdown brain. I totally get it. So the second question was just maybe something that a creative project or a creative anything really that you've done that you really seen God breathe on.
Yeah, I would say anything which is authentic, which really represents God's character. I feel like he breathes on it, and you know. So for us, when it comes to our services, we're not trying to go for this professional, you know, like, oh, look at us, look how cool we are. It's all like gadgets and gazmos and, you know, whatever. Everyone's looking at us. This is so good. Like, we're actually not trying to like look amazing. We're actually just trying to take church experience to our community. And that means it's raw, it's real, it's authentic. It's, you know, and I love that authenticity was one of the things that you guys talked about as well. So I'd say God tends to breathe on the things which are authentic, and I love that that's one of your key values.
That's awesome. And can you maybe I love that. Can you maybe tell us a bit about Media Collective, like that kind of project, and how that came about and what it is really?
Yeah, it was literally, so I stepped into this role and we had, I think it was about 5 staff members, which are incredible individuals. But in terms of like volunteers getting involved, there wasn't heaps of volunteers involved in the creative aspect of it. And so one of the things that they were currently running at the time, I didn't start it, they already had it. It was called the Media Collective, which was their social dynamic for the team. And I thought, well, if there's something I can do, I can maybe help lift the profile of this. I can help, you know, maybe create a bit of culture in this. And so Media Collective was a place for creatives to belong, but it wasn't a team that you sign up to. And what we saw is creatives come out from the woodwork who weren't up for joining team, but they were up for fun and community. And as that community built and people started building relationships and getting people jobs and all that kind of stuff, what happened was that people started to put their hand up saying, hey, is there anything I can get involved with? And then from there, we're like, oh, we got Easter coming up, we got Christmas coming up, we got this, we got that project. And so people started to get involved. And now our creative team, you know, has just grown. And we're even seeing layers of teams, not just different areas like photography and videography and editing and stuff, but actually in generations. So, you know, this next generation rising up, you know, Generation Z, they're called the super creatives because of their phone. You know, they're creating every day, TikTok, Instagram, and they're visual learners. And so I think for us as leaders to be able to engage with this next generation and give them opportunity to serve and build the house, build the church at a young age, I think the opportunity for creativity and just to give something which is honoring to God throughout all generations, I think it's such a great opportunity for the church.
Yeah, it so is. That's amazing. And like, you guys reach a lot of creatives, and we, so far at the start of the church, we do have a lot of creatives in our church, and I would say I'm a creative myself. What do you think Jesus is saying to creatives right now?
I think he's saying, number one, don't fear. For a lot of creatives in this current time, there's a lot, I guess, sorry, when I say creatives, I'm talking about people who are like full-time profession. They're in, let's just say, one of the creative, maybe more artistic industries. I think for them, like, just don't fear. Like, you might not be having that much work on right now. You might be worried about certain areas, but like, do not fear. Watch me provide for you. Watch me protect. Watch me lead you. Come up with new innovative ideas to do new things. And then I think as general, I think across the church, I believe God is calling the creatives to rise up and collaborate with preachers and ministers in a new way. Everything's online at the moment. And so we've gone from like 45 minutes of teaching or 30 minutes of teaching, whatever your standard is for a preach. But now, because everyone's consuming so much content every day, it's like if something doesn't engage you in 10 minutes or at least 5 minutes, people like lose attention. So as preachers, we're like, oh, so does that mean we need to lift our level of delivery? I don't think preachers should try and be world-class articulating preachers. I don't think we should try and be something that we're not. Like, I think if you're a preacher, your job is just to communicate what God is saying to you, to the church, and you shouldn't sway to try and impress people. But I think creativity is a great way for you to draw that stuff in, to collaborate together, to still say that same message. So, I think if I'm doing a 20-minute message, a lot of time I'll break that up with like little videos, and I love what you do, all the spoken word stuff. I would say, poetry has always been very significant for the church throughout history. But I think, the way that you can articulate what God is doing through word is engaging. And I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more people using media, spoken word. And I think the way preaching always was, I think will change and will evolve. It'll be the same message, a message of faith, hope, and love. It'll be a message which gives out grace and truth, of course. But I think the method of, what we think, have to have my 45-minute expository preach. Otherwise, it's not church. That's not in the Bible anywhere. The Bible just says, get into the word together. Bible says worship together. Bible says pray together. Bible says share and do life in community together. There's nothing about services in the Bible. And so sometimes we hold on so tightly to things that we think are biblical, but actually they're not biblical. They're just traditional. And so we need to be able to say, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to make changes? Does this glorify God? And to think outside the box. And I think because you guys are starting a church, what a great opportunity for you to not just try and build on what's been on the past, learn from the past, but actually say, God, what is the new thing that you are doing today?
Yeah, well, that's good. Challenging but good. I love that. That's awesome. And I love that you've said this a few times, and this is our heartbeat as a church is, the message is always going to be the same. We don't need no remix on the message, like Jesus is still Jesus, but the methods do change. So in this time, in this season, how do we creatively share the gospel?
I think it's important that we're not like, that term Bible bashing, forcing our beliefs on other people. I think use social media, or website, email, all that kind of stuff. Use it well. But I think what I'm realizing is like, when I led people to Christ, it was always through personal conversation. It was always through relationship. And so if I'm looking at like where I see the most fruit, where I see the most results, it's still through personal relationship, not me just blasting it out, hoping that, someone sees it. It's actually like intentional. So I've got like maybe 5 mates, which are non-Christian, and I'll take like a link for a service, or I get a digital invite and I'll just personally invite them. And maybe it's a Sunday thing, maybe it's a midweek thing. I'll think about who it is, but I think making sure that we just invite other people to come and experience Jesus is important. And you know, in the marketing world or advertising world, you've got micro influencers and macro influencers. So for example, Adidas would pay David Beckham £1 million or however much money to wear Adidas, and then that's it. He's a macro influencer. But what they're finding is Adidas is seeing more sales, and Nike and other ones, when they give micro influencers the garment and they put it on and they show their mates, and then all of their mates are buying it. So they're finding these micro influencers are having more influence than the macro influencers. So if you put that into a church context, when it's just like the church leadership team or the church staff saying on their Instagram, you know, join us on Sunday, it's like, yeah, sure, you know, you're paid to do that, or yeah, you're told to do that. You know, you guys are the macro influences. But it's when the micro influences, when every single person in church really is passionate and proud of church, and you personally invite the people in your world, say, hey, I just want you to just check this out, let me know what you think. I'm not, you know, it's up to you. But when it's just relaxed, intentional, you know, people are open to the gospel. They might have a bad perception of church, but when they get to see that there's a God that loves them, I've never experienced anyone yet who's like, no, I don't want to hear about a God that loves me.
So good. That's so good. And two things I would just say on that. One is, if Adidas or Nike are watching, me and Dan are very good micro influencers.
Yeah.
But I love that it's not just, you know, we say this to the church, you know, based on Ephesians 4, you know, it's about encouraging and equipping the church. It's not just all down to one person, and no church would want that anyway. They wouldn't want it to be, because they all want to be part of it. So I love that whole just getting everybody involved, and they're going to reach people that the leaders can never reach. So I absolutely love that. That's awesome. So we're just about to wrap up. But just before we go, if there's anything you just want to add, I'd love just to hear your heart. Anything that can be creativity, or you know, anything that you would just want to share that's on your heart. And then if you don't mind, I would absolutely love if you could just pray and maybe just give people that opportunity that you talked about, you know, about meeting God's love, if that's
yeah, definitely. I think the thing on my heart is that, you know, whoever's watching this, no matter how old you are, so maybe you're 11, maybe you're 18, maybe you're 65, maybe you're 70, you know, there's a certain language, you know, which is being talked about now when it comes to creativity, which probably wasn't spoken about, you know, maybe 40, 50 years ago. And maybe you're sitting there and you're like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. But I would actually say, no, this definitely applies to you. And creativity has so many different aspects to it. You know, for the single parent that's raising their kid, who has to create a dinner for their kids every night, for the accountant who's creating these spreadsheets which displays everything that they need to see so they know whether what they're doing is working or not. Like, creativity is all around us. And so I just want to encourage you, you know, like, all the way through the Bible, it talks about giving God the glory. Exodus 14 verses 17, God says, I will take you through the Red Sea and I will receive glory. All of Egypt will know that I am Lord. 1 Samuel 12 says, I will rescue a people for my name's sake. Psalm 115 says, not to me, O Lord, not to my name be the glory, but to your name be the glory for your kindness and your truth. Isaiah 43 says, even when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, for I love you. Do not be afraid, for I created you for my glory. Matthew 5 verses 16 says, not for your glory, but for God's glory, I will live my life for you. And then Revelations 4 says, worthy are you, O Lord, to receive all glory, honor, and power, for you created all things. So it is clear all the way through the Bible, from the beginning to the end, it is all about living for that audience of one, giving God the glory. And I want to encourage everybody, no matter how old you are, no matter what your history or your past has been like God is calling you today to create for him and his glory. And so don't box him, don't limit him. Think outside the box, step outside your comfort zone, and then just see what he's going to do in you and through you. So yeah, I'd love to just take a minute, just because there might be some people here who've tuned in today because maybe someone shared your link, and maybe you've heard of God, but you've never actually encountered God. You know, God is love. He did not create love or form love. He is love. And 1 John 4 verses 18 says, perfect love casts out all fear. And so when you enter into a relationship with God, you see your life change and transform. But entering into a relationship with Jesus isn't so much about what he can do for you, but it's actually about what he's already done for you. John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one only son, so that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. God loved the world. And when it says world, it doesn't just mean the people who go to church right now. It means every single human being. Black, white, rich, poor, educated or uneducated, regardless of your behavior, your past, your upbringing, regardless of all. It's an invitation to all. For God so loved the world, He gave his one and only son, Jesus. That's why Jesus came from heaven to earth. That's why he went to the cross, to take our sin, our shame, and our pain, so that today, as he died and rose again, today we could be here today, set free from sin, set free from guilt, set free from shame, and we can live the life that he's called us to live. And maybe you're watching this and you haven't stepped into that life, and it'd be my greatest privilege and honor to lead you in a prayer so you can encounter his love, encounter his grace and his mercy and his freedom, and you can live the life that he's called you to live. So if you don't mind, why don't you just close your eyes where you are, just bow your head, and just so this is a moment between you and God. And I'm just going to lead you in a prayer. And if that's you, if you want to make this decision, say this prayer in your head, but believe it in your heart. Romans 10 verses 9 says, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that God raised Jesus from the dead and that Jesus is Lord, then you will be saved. So let's pray. Jesus, I thank you for what you did on the cross. I thank you for your grace that covers all of my sin. Today, I've decided to give you my life. I've decided to follow you. Amen. Amen. Well, if you just made that decision, that's the greatest decision that you can ever make. You might not understand how much of a celebration is going on right now in heaven and within church right here, but I think in the days to come, as you experience this adventure in life with Jesus, you're going to understand just how amazing it is just to enter into a relationship with him. So let me hand over to Steven. It's been so good chatting to you guys. We're praying for you and we're believing that there's so many great things to come for you guys up there. Take care.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much. It was an absolute privilege and honor to have you on. And guys, let me just echo what Dan says. This is heaven is thrown one of the biggest over-the-top parties that you couldn't even imagine right now, and we're joining with them. But if you made that decision, there's links in the comments below just to get in touch with us and connect with us, because we just really want to encourage you in the next step of the journey and just to become part of the family, because it's such an important step to do.